Welcome to the Tempe Institute's Q&A Tuesday. Today we're going to talk about why the American economy is such a mess. Now, the obvious answer, the answer that virtually everybody gives is, well, the economy is a mess because we have so much debt. The debt is the problem. And the debt is definitely a major problem. But it's actually a symptom of deeper problems. The debt is an outcome of a few different factors, but predominantly one major factor has gotten us over the last 100 years to the point where we are today. And this factor, this reason for our messy, problematic, spiraling out of control economy is something that very few people know about and are familiar with. What most people think today in America is that there's such a thing called economics, and that economics has been around for a long time, and that there's only one kind of economics. And you take those classes in school. Well, what they don't realize, in fact, I had a student in one of my classes who was probably in his 50s, who had gone all the way through a master's degree in economics and found what this key element that I'm going to tell you on his own. And he was angry because he had never been exposed to it. What you have today that's taught in all the schools is Keynesian economics, sometimes called Keynesian economics. This is a type, a way of viewing the world and government and people, and a way of managing the money in a society based on the writings of John Maynard Keynes. He was a huge proponent of intervention, of governmental intervention in the economy, who wrote very influential tracts, I think he was British, in the 20s and 30s especially. And there's a very funny little video that I hope to find and I'll link for you, of a battle that went on, a battle of words that went on internationally during this time between Friedrich Hayek and John Maynard Keynes. And those two approaches to economics were fighting each other because their foundations are different. What most people don't know today is that our economy is a mess because nobody's been exposed to Austrian School economics, which Hayek was a member of. We think that economics is simply the Keynesian economics that we're taught in the schools. That's what economics is. But there's actually 4 branches of economics. Only one is taught. Another branch is the extremist Marxist economics that he promoted through Communist Manifesto and other writings. And that's usually taught in political courses, not even as an economic approach. So, instead of having students be exposed to different ways of thinking about an economy, they're exposed to one type of economics, and then they go out into the world and promote this type of economics, and it's, in my opinion, the wrong way to view an economy. Back in the day, back when we had liberal arts education in America, and we read great books and all that good stuff in the 16, 17, 1800s, there was no such thing as economics. There was political economy. Adam Smith's book kind of opened economics up as its own discipline, and it kind of went from there. And then in the late, at the turn of the century, Hayek and others, especially Ludwig von Mises, who was very influential in developing the Austrian School of Economics, wrote a big fat book called Human Action. And the whole premise of Austrian economics is this. Austrian economics says, actually, there's no such thing as an economy. There's just people. And in any society where people live relatively close to each other, they usually try to economize their time and their means and to increase their affluence and all that kind of thing through barter and trade, through sales and purchases. Let's look different in many different societies. And so people get together and they decide that I'm really good at this, so I'm going to give you this service and you're going to give me this product that you produce. And an economy happens because people are making exchanges. So the Austrian School of Economics says, okay, the foundation of economics is people, and what that means is that we need to understand people. If we understand people, we'll understand economies. And the foundational idea is an economy must allow owners to talk to owners in a natural environment with no intervention. Keynesian economics is a very interventionist model. It says government can control the economy. It can control the interest rates. It can control minimum wages. It can control how much people buy and sell things for. And the intervention really began then. And there, you know, the Great Depression was largely a product of that government intervention that happened in the 30s because it had never happened before in the way that it did. And economists will tell you that they've gotten better and better at it, and intervention is really helpful and it's a super great tool. But it's intervention to the detriment of the owner, and the owner can't communicate with the other owner. Now, I don't have time to go into all of this with you. If you want to know more about it, there's a couple lectures in our Principles of Liberty reading program that you can find on the reading programs page that talk specifically about the history of economics and about the different schools and Austrian economics and why they're important. What I want to answer today, what I want to say today is, our economy is a mess because people are unfamiliar with Austrian school economics. They don't have the mindset that economies are made up of people, and when we understand people, we'll understand the economy. And that owners have to communicate with each other, and every time the government comes between two owners and it sets a price or it sets an interest rate, then the owners can't tell each other what things really are of value, and then it causes increased recessions and it causes all kinds of problems. This is super important because several of the books that we recommend on government and economics on this blog are going to lead you to Austrian School, or they're Austrian School type readings that encourage you to learn about human nature and what Mises called human action laws, so that as you better understand people, you can understand the economy, and you can understand politics, you can understand all kinds of things that you thought you didn't really care about. Like, I used to think they were the most boring topics ever. I would never would have crossed my mind in college or after to ever study government or economics or any of that kind of stuff. I've come to see that it's some of the most fascinating stuff to study because it is all about human beings and why they do what they do. So, I'm going to link a video for you that's really funny. Back in Keynes' time, where he was really promoting his type of approach, especially with government intervention to economics, the Austrian school was, especially through Friedrich Hayek, was promoting their ideas and trying to help people understand, no, you need to allow for maximum freedom in any social environment, to allow owners to communicate and to understand human beings, and then you'll have a thriving economy, not when government intervenes. And so there's this really funny video that I'll link for you where Keynes and Hayek go head-to-head, and it's actually a boxing match. And if you listen carefully, you'll hear their key arguments for what they believe. And somebody that's obviously pro-Austrian school created it, because Hayek wins the debate, but Keynes is given all the credit and seen, perceived as winning. But the Keynesian arguments really fall apart throughout this little clip. It's really funny. But Hayek and Keynes did have kind of a verbal war internationally, through different economics magazines and other writings, where they really were on the forefront, fighting for their perspective and hoping to win people to their side and help economies thrive. But we do only have Keynesian economics in the American school systems today, and it's a huge weakness. It creates people who only think a certain way, and instead of letting those arguments have to stand side by side with other arguments from other branches of economics, it's isolated and stands alone, and students think that that's the only way to understand what economics is. But economics has many approaches and many ways of thinking about it and viewing it. So I'm going to encourage all of you, this is your mandate, what you've got to do is go read some great stuff by the Austrian School. I'm going to recommend you start with what is seen, what is not seen. There's already a blog post on it, and I'll link it for you. It's a little bit older, it's harder, it's Bastide, it's French, it's 1850s, but it's been translated into modern English, so we can read modern English, and he's sarcastic and witty and spot on and hilarious, and I would encourage you to go out and educate yourself and your students in the next generation on different types, different ways of understanding economics, because we're going to continue on this path of increasing government intervention until we have a different economic model we want to embrace. Because we're arguing over the applications of core ideas that I believe are just wrong. And until we get clear about the fact that we just have a fundamental misunderstanding of what economics is, we're not going to be able to correct it, because we're just going to let government intervene in some new way. So that's your Q&A for today. Why is our economy such a mess? That's why. So you go out and help me and all the others who love liberty to promote a thriving economy through better understanding human beings. If this has been helpful, please pass it on to a friend, like us on Facebook, and join our blog, join our crusade to build character through the classics, and we'll see you next time.